Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, this week's episode is an Encore episode about a fun way to celebrate the new year with your own personal top 10 list and some meaningful connection. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle, Loving Life After 50. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. So here we are, the end of the year and the beginning of another. I wanted to share a quote by an unknown author with you for additional inspiration for the show today. Every year you make a resolution to change yourself. This year, make a resolution to be yourself. I love this quote so much, and it's perfect for today because the topic I want to coach you on is about starting a new midlife tradition. Another one. You know I love midlife traditions, but this is another one for New Year's, one that's meaningful and fun on a couple of levels. So today we're talking about how to create your own personal top 10 list, highlighting the top 10 days of your year. And we're going to do it in 6 simple steps. Because I have a theory. I have a theory that you're likely being yourself when you're actually having a top 10 day. That's when you are being super present, connecting, and in flow, and you're probably being very much who you really are, like you're relaxed. What do you think? I'd love to get your thoughts on this after you go through the top 10 days list and exercise yourself. So think about it and make sure to let me know. But just quick, before we dive into this amazing topic, I have a question for you. Are you ever number one? Or a slight variation, are you number one enough? Think about it. So many things to think about today. I heard a story recently from someone in my community who was having this experience where she was thinking she actually wanted to do something and she didn't want anybody else to come with her. She wanted to do it alone. And then she did it. And it wasn't so easy because she had to resist the urge to include others even though they asked. You know, she wanted to have that experience and she had her own back and put herself first. Now that is winning. But it's not always easy to do because by your age and mine, you've got decades of experience putting others first, doing whatever they need, thinking about what they need, stepping up to help. It's a lot of extra bandwidth and energy, and it's probably just who you are and how you've been rolling. But it's probably also time for you to start connecting with some of your own priorities too. Ask yourself, what would it be like not to worry about being an autopilot people pleaser so that you felt comfortable with others about what you really want or how you really feel? What would it be like to be clear about what you wanted in your next chapter rather than feeling a bit bored about doing the same stuff over and over again, year after year? What would it be like to feel peaceful and fulfilled about how you're showing up and what you're focusing on in your life and know that you're doing what you want to do and what you're meant to do? Like, I've experienced all of this angst, and I have a feeling you may have too. My friend, if you resonate with these examples, that's just a little taste of what you get when you join the Women in the Middle Happiness Academy, where I help women over 50 embrace their gift of aging with excitement and peace. That's really what happens. The Women in the Middle Happiness Academy is a hybrid 1-year community and group coaching experience that can help you figure out what you want and then feel comfortable and courageous enough to pursue it and feel great about it. It's a guided experience to regret-proof your life. So being in the midlife coaching space now for about 10 years, I know what works. Academy members have told me it's like having a safe place to land. And that's a quote. With great coaching and like-minded women that you can trust and be vulnerable with while you're actually growing forward. And this is all a critical part of being happier in midlife. It's not as hard as it seems either. It can be hard to imagine, though, when you feel so stuck. So if working with me has been something you've been thinking about, please reach out and get your questions answered. As you know all too well, life is short and it's important to stop wasting valuable time. So let's talk about it and see if we're a good fit. Plus, now is the perfect time to get in on the new bonuses. So book your fun, free, and no obligation Zoom call, and I'll tell you all about them. Next year can be way better and way different than this year, but you have to take some action. I would love to be your midlife coach and help you feel more peaceful and excited about your future. So head over to www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. You'll find the link there, book your call, and away we go. I am really looking forward to seeing your name in my calendar. And on that note, please enjoy this episode. Today's episode is inspired by a fun and meaningful New Year's tradition and two interesting men, believe it or not. So you may recall virtually meeting the first one way back in episode 78 on a show about traditions and celebrations, and he is my uncle, Bob Schneeweiss. And the second man, well, you're going to know this name, but you probably don't know him personally. It's David Letterman. So let's dig in. I interviewed my uncle, who did an amazing job of celebrating life with really fun, sentimental, and meaningful traditions. And like I said, that person was my Uncle Bob. I'll put a link in the show notes to that interview, of course, because you're going to want to listen to it. It was terrific. I'd been watching him do this sort of thing for years, and I was really blown away by it. He would celebrate little things like playing backgammon with his wife, who was my aunt, and keeping track of the winners of significant games on a Friendly's Fribble Cup. If you don't know what Friendly's is, it was an ice cream place on the East Coast, and they had a drink called Fribble, and they kept the cup and they made labels, and it was always alive and well on the top of the fridge. And it was a big deal. It was so fun to watch. He would also celebrate bigger things like the 50th anniversary of his graduation from the University of Miami. And he would celebrate with all kinds of stuff. All this university stuff. It was around the house for a week, like, little pom-poms and stuff. And he even dug out his senior ring and wore that too. But the one thing I watched him do for many years is the thing I want to share with you today. It's about making your personal top 10 list as part of your New Year's tradition. And it's not just any old list. It's inspired by David Letterman. This list has personal significance because it's about your top 10 days of the year. Now, this idea has a hidden surprise to it, and I'll share that in a few minutes. So as great as you can already tell that the top 10 day thing is, it's even better. It's a terrific way to close out the year and get ready for the new year. Okay, so here's how this idea works. I've broken it down into 6 simple steps. Step number 1 is to identify your top days of the year. So go back and think about the year. Look at your calendar. Think about where you went, what you did, who you saw. Think about different parts of your life too. Your family, your friends, your work, your play, your projects, all the things. So start making this list, but don't vet the list just yet. This step is about the top days. So don't worry about how many of them you have, and don't worry about which ones were the best. I just want you to, really think carefully and go through this however you think will really help you remember the good ones and write them down. Just get all the remarkable days for whatever reason, because it's personal after all. Get all of the good ones on the list. So you might want to start by going month by month. After you do that, you may want to think about seasons or events or vacations or projects, just to help you jog your memory. If you keep a journal, even better, or a detailed calendar, that's the best. Whatever works for you, make the list. Okay, step number 2 is to identify the people who were involved in these top days. So just go back to your list and add the names next to each top day. Now, there's a really important reason for this, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, but it is super fun to think about all of these people being part of your life like this. It's just such a fun way to remember the year. Now, step number 3 is to take a close look at your list and think about why you chose these specific days. Now, this is a fun little step because you're likely to smile the whole time and you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to see what you really love to do, what you really love to experience, and you'll gain insight into what you really cherish. Now, I know you probably have an urge to skip this step, but I really want to encourage you to just take a couple of minutes and notice something deeper about why you picked it. Why did this remarkable day make your list? Now, this information will also be super useful for you next year, and I'll tell you more about that in a couple of minutes. Step number 4 is to narrow down your list to the top 10 days. So now that you've really taken a look at some of the highlights for you in the last year, go ahead and whittle the list down and have your David Letterman moment. Now, it's really interesting to note that my uncle never did top 10 in terms of, getting down to the number one top day. And he also didn't ever publish his list. He liked to keep that to himself. But you can do whatever you want. I just wanted to share it because it was his idea, so I just want to share how he did it. Okay, now you might think you're done. But wait, there's more. Step number 5 is to contact those people who were involved in one of your top days and express gratitude. Now, how fun is this? You don't even have to be specific. You can just reach out and tell them generally that they were involved in one of your remarkable days of the year. Or, if you want, you could take the opportunity to be more personal. It's totally up to you. Wait until you see the reaction you get from this. It is so great. So there you go, the first 5 steps to the top 10 days of the year exercise. But you may also remember that I said that there were 6 steps. The 6th step is about what you can do to make more top days in the future. Step number 6 is about how to amplify your experience when you feel a top 10 day coming on. So here's the thing. Sometimes you can actually sense a top 10 day coming on. You can feel it, especially when you know how to think about it. And that's the point of talking about it now, as a reminder that the way you show up in the moment can really affect your experience. So if you sense that something amazing is happening or about to happen, you can actually lean into it more. You can actively amplify its power. The way you think, the way you relax, the way you engage, the way you're aware, the way you smile, the way you're present. And when this happened to me, it didn't happen to me until I spoke to my uncle about it. So when I interviewed him on the podcast originally, he explained this and I was fascinated by it. And then a few months after that interview, it happened. I happened to be on a whale watch, and you're thinking, but Susie, if you're in a whale watch, you're probably going to have a top 10 day. And for me, that's true. But it felt different. And all I can tell you is it was kind of like a slow motion sizzle. It had energy because I was made aware that amplification was even a possibility. Like, that idea was completely new to me. And I was really present. And it just occurred to me with that sizzle that there was like energy to it, energy to the awareness. It's hard to explain. But I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a top 10 day. And I have the ability, I have the power to focus on it, to make it bigger, to amplify it. And I did. I just kind of relaxed into it. I smiled more. I was much more observant about what was going on. It was amazing. And I also am going to make reference to this in the show notes because I did do an episode about talking about how to amplify. But anyway, in the nutshell, that's what happened to me. There was kind of an energetic sizzle to the awareness and then some glee. Like, I felt tingly with excitement that I knew I had the power to amplify it. So I really want to leave you with that. So remember, this amplification can come from lots of different ways. The way you think, the way you're aware, the way you smile, the way you're present and in the moment, the way you relax, the way you engage, and so on. And these are the types of ways that you can amplify your experience, whatever it is, and be intentional about making it even more memorable and amazing. So there you have it, 6 steps to identify and enjoy your top days of the year more and more. This whole top 10 day thing is an amazing way to celebrate joy on purpose. This is the kind of tradition that I can really get behind. For New Year's, I don't want to go out. I don't want to find parking. I don't want to get dressed up. I don't want to deal with crowds. I don't want to stay up late. I love the idea of having something memorable and meaningful to do in my house. Or you could do it with a group, like if you had a dinner party or something. It doesn't need to be something you do alone, but you may want to do something alone. Actually, I do it at my desk because I want to look at my Google Calendar, and then I want to give myself some time to really think about the year, because not everything gets written down in a calendar. And I don't have a journal like that, but if you do, it'll really help. Anyway, I think this is an amazing tradition for New Year's, and I wonder what you think. I hope you like it. I hope it inspires you. And you know what? If you are inspired, I would love to hear about it. Just reach out and let me know. Let me know about one of your top 10 days. Let me know if you were inspired about amplification. I really think there's so much to this idea, and I can't wait to hear from you. Okay, that's it for this Encore episode. I hope you feel inspired to reflect on and feel grateful for some pretty good times in your life. Now, you might be interested or maybe a little curious about what one of my top 10 days was last year, and I'm going to give you number one. We went on a cruise as part of the Women in the Middle Academy, and one of the ports was Key West, and I had never been to Key West. I wasn't attracted to planning an excursion for everybody that was like super duper on the water. There were plenty of those, and I know I could have done that, but what I really wanted from Key West was a walking tour. I love a good walking tour, and this one did not disappoint. Everybody loved it. Our guide was a fourth generation person from Key West, and he knew everything and everybody. So the stories were so good, and he had lots of personal reflections. It was fantastic. I really, really loved it. That was February 2024. So please feel free to send me one of your top 10 days. I love hearing about stuff like that from you. Now, this podcast is all about how to love your life again after 50. It's really all about coaching you to be more intentional and to incorporate mindfulness into your life as a regular practice. That means slowing down. This is how you put yourself on your agenda. My focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and focused on your current values and priorities so you don't have regrets. I can help you create the success you're looking for, because you know what? Life is just too short to waste time spinning and thinking about what you can't do instead of what you can do. That's why I created the Women in the Middle Happiness Academy with you in mind, because it's a warm, supportive, and fun coaching community of like-minded women who embrace the gift of aging and grow forward together. It's totally possible to feel great about your roadmap to a more fun, meaningful, and regret-free next chapter. It really is, and I want this for you too. So let's talk about it and see if the Academy makes sense for you. Apply and book your free, no-obligation consult momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy. This time of year is perfect too, because there are exciting new bonuses, and it will help you kick off the new year in a super powerful way. And finally, for show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 388. You'll also see links there for my new show, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.